Hey, beautiful people, welcome or welcome back to Well with Mika, where we talk real wellness for your real life. I'm Mika, your cultural wellness ally, and today we're going to get into music and art as therapy. Now, I use therapy kind of loosely, but we'll get into therapy technically as well. Because I don't know if you're anything like me, but when I am feeling down, when something just feels off, and I put on some soca or some hip hop, when I tell, you know how Patrice Roberts' song says, soca is my therapy? That's me all day, okay? My kids, my husband, they know. Put on soca, I'm a different person. So I always wondered, okay, is it just me? Do I just love it? Or is something actually really happening like physiologically in my body? Because the thing is, I love the idea that art heals, that music heals. It feels true to me, but I'm also somebody who wants to know, okay, so is there actual like scientific clinical back into this? I'm just curious like that. And look, and also because I've seen, wellness culture take things that are natural and human, things that we've always done, and turn them into one more thing we're supposed to optimize, commodify, and perfect. I don't like that idea, but I did want to explore, okay, like what's really going on here. So today, we're going to talk about it, right? Talk about music and art. And I want to be really honest about what the science actually says, what's still being figured out, and why it's okay if these things just help without fixing everything. And the distinction that I want to make is that I want to say intervention. When I say the word intervention, I mean something sold or prescribed as a fix, a cure, a treatment, or a solution. And then when I say support, I mean something that helps you feel, more regulated, more like yourself. And that's even if it doesn't solve the underlying problem. Because music and art, they're not going to heal your trauma. They're not doing that. They're not going to eliminate all your chronic stress, but they can make the load lighter, right? And that matters. We don't want to discount that. And what I keep coming back to is that something does not have to heal your trauma to make it worth your time. So, before we get into the research, I really want to say this clearly. If music shifts your mood, you are not imagining it, okay? If drawing or doodling helps you process your feelings that you can't quite name, you're not being naive. And if those things don't fix everything, that doesn't mean that they don't matter, right? We've gotten so clinical about wellness. Everything has to be a practice, everything needs to be measured and tracked and optimized. Sometimes you just need to do things for the enjoyment of it and for the fact that it makes you feel better. Some things are just human, right? Listening to music that reminds you of home, dancing in your living room when nobody's watching, sketching in your notebooks during, let's say a hard phone call, singing badly, loudly in your car, all of those things, they help boost your mood, they help you feel better, and you don't need anybody to give you a research study to back it up, right? And these are not interventions, they're not homework. They're just ways that we've always helped ourselves feel more like ourselves. And something can be supportive without being a solution. Health isn't just one big fix, right? It's often a collection of small supports that help us stay regulated, connected, and just human. Okay, so let's get into what the research actually says, right? Now, music in particular, when researchers analyze music interventions actually across like clinical settings, that means hospitals, cancer centers, rehab programs, the pattern is actually very consistent. Music can lower your stress hormones like cortisol, reduce your perceived pain intensity, help you regulate mood and emotional responses, support the nervous system in downshifting from stress. Not because music is magic, I would love to think so, but it's really because it interacts with the same systems in our bodies that manage stress, emotion, and connection. And something important is that what works is not neutral. So if it's working, baby, okay? Familiar music, especially culturally meaningful music, that tends to have a stronger emotional effect. So when I say I bust on some soca, throw on some hip hop, and it hits different than, let's say, classical, which is nice too, but it just don't hit the same. That's not random. That is my nervous system recognizing home, recognizing safety, recognizing that happy feeling, that joy, and that matters. And now when it comes to art, it feels true, right? And the science is it's catching up, because art is where, I was really kind of curious, because it feels, healing to me. But like I said, I wanted to see what was there clinically. And what we know is that art therapy in particular, when guided by a trained therapist, that's what we're talking about here, it does show promise in terms of emotional expression, when you just can't, the words are just not enough, stress and anxiety reduction, mood support in some clinical populations. But the research is just less consistent than in music. So, it's hard to standardize. Some studies, they show clear benefits, and others just show modest effects. And what I take from that is that the absence of conclusive evidence doesn't mean that that it's proof that it doesn't work. It often just means we haven't figured out how to measure something that's inherently personal, human, and subjective. If art helps you feel more grounded, more spacious, more like yourself, that's a real thing. You don't need a dozen studies that are randomized, controlled trials to validate your own experience. You don't, okay? Listen to yourself, listen to your body, put these supports in practice, because they feel good. I don't even love the word practice, but because it just makes everything sound so much like homework, right? But I do think there's something powerful about recognizing how these small supports do add up. Not in a like stack your supplements, optimize your morning routine kind of way. More just like music doesn't carry the whole load, neither does art, but they do make the load lighter. Just let's think about it. If you're dealing with chronic stress, music is not going to eliminate the source, but it might help you regulate enough to think more clearly, sleep a little better, feel more connected to yourself, get your stress down enough so that you can be a creative thinker, because that happens. If you're, let's say, processing grief, art won't bring the person back, of course, but it might give you a way to hold what feels too big for the words, right? And if, let's say, you're navigating burnout, a playlist that's not going to change your job, but it might give you that time where you remember what it feels like to just feel good. So these are supports, they're not solutions, and honestly, that is okay. That is enough. So, what I really want you to walk away with today is that you're probably already doing more for your health than you realize. That thing you do, putting on the album when your nerves just can't take it no more, the sketching, the humming while you're cooking in the kitchen, like you got your own little kitchen concert going on, that is not nothing. It's not trivial. It means something and it matters. It's not frivolous. It's not you avoiding real healing. It's actually your body saying, yo, I know how to take care of myself. I got this. I got you. You don't need permission from a study to trust your own experience. But if it does make you feel better to know science is starting to back you up, then cool. It is, okay? It's a little late, maybe it's a little late to the party, but it is catching up. So you're not imagining it, you're not behind, and whether you knew it or not, you've been doing something right. So I hope that this resonated with you. I'd love to hear from you. What's the music that's been helping you feel more like yourself, that's been lifting your mood? What's the small support you didn't even realize was supporting you? Drop it in the comments, please. You never know. You might introduce someone to their next favorite song, or you might get introduced to a new art medium. Drop it in the comment section. Let's continue the discussion. Until next time, please be gentle with yourself, okay? You're doing more than you think. As always, happy healthing. Peace.